We're at the Bethlehem Brew Works in the key swing state of Pennsylvania with a group of 11 Democratic voters talking about what matters to them.
How important is defeating Trump to everybody at the table?
Extremely. The most important. Number one, yes.
Defeating the president and issues of money or lack thereof.
The top 1% is garnering more and more of the total wealth in the world.
It's worse than that. It's the top 0.1%.
But what I'm saying to you is...
It's the top 0.1%.
And I agree with you.
It's the top 1%, true, but it's the top 0.1% that's benefiting.
This was Omar Ray's question, one that many here were asking.
How would you fix income inequality in the United States?
We took it to the dining room table of South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Does that sound like what you've been hearing on the campaign trail?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what people are seeing is a president who says the economy is doing great, just look at the stock market. And a lot of folks around the country and around here in South Bend saying, well, what about me?
What would be the number one thing you would try to do to address some of those issues?
Certainly a higher minimum wage. Increasing access to unionization so that people can bargain for higher wages, not just the minimum wage. Making sure that people can get the kind of support that they need in terms of health, sick leave.
The Midwestern mayor supports a wealth tax. He wants guaranteed paid family leave and for the national minimum wage to grow to $15 an hour.
You can almost hear a collective groan, though, from business people in America hearing just even that short list. Well, who's going to pay for that? That's us, and that's going to be a drag on the economy.
Well, here's the thing. The economy has grown faster than it is right now under periods where we had fairer tax policy and invested more. I'm pretty sure that when we have fairer taxes, wealthy people will still be wealthy, but we won't have levels of inequality that literally threaten the future of the republic.
To Pete Buttigieg, the stakes for this 2020 race are that high. Harry Smith, NBC News, South Bend, Indiana.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.